Right, the African Energy Week and Critical Minerals Africa concluded in Cape Town yesterday. Experts discussed energy availability, the future of coal, and unlocking the potential of gas. Now, head of the Energy Secretariat of the SA National Energy Development Institute, Sampson, Mamphweli, was there, and he joins me now via Zoom. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Now, let's just first discuss the importance of the Energy Week that has now concluded.
Good morning to you and the viewers. It's quite important, especially the African Energy Week taking place in one of the African countries, where we look at the energy challenges in the African continent from the African perspective. And we looked at various energy sources, the resources that we have, plus the critical minerals that can assist us in terms of lighting up Africa, so to speak. So it was a very important event that we had in Cape Town.
Now, of course, we in South Africa, we're sitting with the massive electricity crisis. What exactly does this event mean now for the country, and what exactly was discussed to alleviate this problem?
So before we even come to South Africa, where we have shortage of generation capacity at the moment, which is something that we can solve. If you look at the African continent in general, we have about 40% of the population. That's more than 600 million of people without access to electricity. And on the other side, we've got minerals, critical minerals that we can use for various technologies that assist us in terms of exploiting some of the energy resources that we have in the continent. Over and above that, we are endowed with energy resources from, be it coal, be it renewables. We are in the forefront when it comes to those reserves, as well as the resources, the renewable energy resources, including the fossil fuels. So the issue around load shedding, for instance, or the shortage of generations of capacity, we look at it from the African perspective to say, while we may go as far as maybe having 4 hours to 5 hours without electricity in South Africa, other African countries are struggling to even connect their own people. So in that context, sitting around the table and talking to other colleagues in the continent who are in the energy space and exploiting and exploring various ways in which we can power the African continent was one of the main things that happened at the Africa Energy Endeavor. The collaborations that we were talking about between or amongst African countries when it comes to energy supply in general, not just the electricity, but you're talking about the liquid fuels all the way to electricity. And you're talking about collaboration in terms of trying to resolve some of the load shedding challenges that we have in the country. For instance, we've got countries such as Mozambique that are assisting us in terms of bringing in some generation capacity from there, or additional generation capacity from there. We've got about 2,000 megawatts that currently coming from Mozambique. They are ramping that up from the Cabora Bassa scheme. So there's quite a lot that this kind of the energy dialogues can bring to South Africa to resolve the South African situation. But over and above that, South Africa has got critical skills that we can use also to try and assist other African countries in the energy space. Given our challenges, we are still one of the leaders. It's South Africa and Egypt that are on top in terms of the installed generation capacity.
So that was going to be one of my next questions, this collaborative effort that you are pursuing, especially when it comes to other governments and other countries coming on board and helping each other. Is the main focus just collaboration between African countries at this point in time, or will there be other international communities also coming on board?
So with the Africa Energy Week, we look mainly at collaborations amongst African countries. We know that we do collaborate with the international community at the moment when it comes to things like such as your oil and things like that. But most of the resources are found in the African continent. So we're looking at how do we maximize the utilization and the exploitation of the African resources for the African continent? How do we grow the African economies in the various African countries using the energy resources that we have in the continent itself? At international level, we do have some European countries that are also coming in and assisting various African countries to basically implement their strategies. For instance, we've got a country like Germany through the GIZ that is playing a critical role in the continent in terms of coming in and looking at what plans do we have as South Africa and how can they, as the Germans, assist us in terms of ensuring that we implement those particular plans, because they also have a keen interest. The international community has got a keen interest in the African continent. They have resources that they import from us, both raw products and finished products. And when it comes to finished products, if we have energy challenges, then it means that we will not be able to meet the demands at the international level, which basically affect their economies. So they have an interest in assisting us to try and resolve our African energy challenges as well.
I know you mentioned oil and gas earlier and some renewable projects as well. Green hydrogen, was this also a topic that was discussed thoroughly? And what benefits could this possibly have for South Africa and Africa as a whole?
So there was, alongside the Africa Energy Week, I was moving between the two conferences. There was a South African Green Hydrogen Conference where I chaired 2 sessions there. So green hydrogen is one of the technologies that is starting to come up now or to move forward. And Africa, the African continent, sits in a very much better position to produce green hydrogen because of various advantages. One of such advantages is the fact that we've got a wind and solar energy that is used to produce green hydrogen. Our wind and solar energy resources are much better than the wind and solar energy resources elsewhere around the world. We also have the sun, and we also have a land where we can still have these projects installed and producing green hydrogen. I just came from Japan, where I spent 2 weeks, for instance. The first week I was there with Minister Blaine Zimande, who is driving the hydrogen collaboration between South Africa and Japan. And we had other countries joining us the second week, Egypt, Kenya, and others that came in, and we started looking at how can Africa participate in the green hydrogen space. The Japanese, for instance, they are very far ahead in terms of that the hydrogen economy. So we're learning some very good lessons from there. In South Africa, back home, one of the things that was discussed in the conference was the fact that we have what we call the Hydrogen Society Roadmap, which we are implementing partly through my office. And in the Hydrogen Society Roadmap, we have what we call the catalytic projects such as your Bukubai project that Sasol is involved in, and many other projects along what we call the Hydrogen Valley that starts in Mogalakwena, where Anglo-Americans started with the production of green hydrogen. They have a truck that's running on green hydrogen. And then it comes to Gauteng, where there's quite a lot of projects that have been planned. And then it goes to KwaZulu-Natal, where there will be a lot of hydrogen production and utilization projects taking place in that particular space. We also talked about collaborations with countries such as Namibia, where they are doing their green hydrogen project that is quite famous, the Hyphen project as well. So, and we're looking at, for instance, there were agreements that were signed between Sasol, Anglo-American and BMW, where BMW is starting to look at offtake agreements from Sasol, for instance. They want to bring in BMW cars that are hydrogen driven as opposed to the current fuel-driven cars. So there's quite a lot of activities around the hydrogen space, and there were provinces, 3 provinces that signed an agreement: Northern Cape, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape. Those are the provinces that sit well in terms of the production of hydrogen. So they signed agreement for them to say, we want to collaborate in the particular place. Lastly, on the hydrogen side of things, yes, South Africa has invested a lot of money in research. So we've got products that where we are saying to the international community, come and partner with us so that we can take our intellectual property into the hydrogen space, so that we are not left behind and we are not importing all the technologies that we require to exploit the hydrogen economy.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. That was Professor Sampson Mamphweli of the South African National Energy Development Institute.